Okay, so here is the fully resolved form. It's a little bit, this one's a little bit stiffer. Okay, so as I'm going to be putting down the foot ring, there's no wiggle in this at all. And it's almost starting to get a little bit white, which means it's on its way. It's sort of on the last legs that we can attach pieces to this. So I've got this, and I can set it upside down on my foam. And I'm going to take out this foot ring. So I pounded in slab into this foot ring a bit earlier, and I did release it from the mold. If I can find my needle tool, I'll just use this one. So once this is in for about 20 minutes, you can see it starting to pull away from the edges, and that's when you want to get in there with a knife or a needle tool and kind of pop it up. And you can see all of these holes. That's where I went and popped this thing up and out. And it's going to be a little bit more wiggly, because we don't want to let this sit in here too long so that it shrinks onto the form. But here we go, we have this nice piece here, and I can then pop this guy out as well, and we've got our two little feet. Okay, so now we need to do a little bit of work to get these things to set on here. So if you make your feet when you're dropping the slab to make your form, these are going to be ready to go when you get to this stage. So I've just pulled these out. These are kind of fresh feet, which I'm going to reserve for the piece that I just worked on. So I'll just place these two over here and get some plastic on them, wrap that up with my form. And I'm going to take out of plastic two pieces that are a little bit more leather hard. And that way they're more at the consistency of this form. So anytime we're adding leather hard to leather hard, it's always better to have your clay be as close in dryness as possible or wetness as possible. That means that they've been through similar shrinkage rates, right? And so that if these were wet, loose feet, and I'm putting it on this very stiff form, the feet are going to have more shrinking to do, and so they can possibly shrink and crack off, and so we don't want that. So I've got these two pieces. When I put them on, I'm lining up, you know, the smaller part of the foot with the smaller part here, and I'm coming about, I don't know, about an inch away from that kind of divot there, and I'm pulling this one right up against the edge. And that's because if I pull it way over here, it's not supporting enough of the form, and if I pull it way over here, it's not supporting enough of the form here. So I'm kind of right in the middle. I do have more of my piece coming over to the side, but I'm kind of eyeballing it. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of set this on in the place that I want, and I'm just using the dull end of a paintbrush. You could use a pencil, whatever, and I'm just making an outline so that I know where that's going to go. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, now these feet need to fit on the inside of this form. So when we flip it over and stack it, this foot is going to fit here and this foot is going to fit here, which is why we don't want it super close to this underside here. So there you can see what that's going to look like. All right, but as you can see, this doesn't fit, and it's not bendable enough to make it fit. So I need to do a little bit of surforming. I'll take my little surform, and I'm just, okay, I'm not gonna flip it around. I'm kind of beveling this a little bit, so because the shape of my form is round. So again, supporting with broad hands. I'm trying to pitch this in just a little bit so it will sit nice and flat on my form. So it needs to come in a little bit more right here. You can identify the high points. Take a little bit more right out of there. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with how that's fitting there. I'm going to do the same thing on this one, just coming in and taking, you know, these are great because they're round. So if I'm just going like this, I'm taking off the center spot there. That fits pretty flat. Okay, so now I'll just take my tool and I'm gonna go ahead and trace the outside. Trace the outside. These will just give me my areas to score. Okay, and I'm going to use my little rib that has teeth on it and just really get in here and score this up. Especially when you're putting on things that are so stiff and leather hard, you really want to get in there and dig the thing up. So I've got one there, and then I'm going to come the same thing on the surface here, and we're making teeth for these two pieces to fit together, and the slip acts as the glue. So we need to really kind of score this up. I'm not going to worry too much about going over my edges because I can always compress that again. Clean it up. I'll do the same thing here. Again, support underneath where you're doing this. You can push through and make this crack. I can get the surface here. If you don't have one of these little ribs, that's okay. You can do this with a nail tool or a fork. But you can see why I want this to be a nice stiff leather hard. I'm putting some pressure here, and I don't want to collapse this dome. So I've got that, and then I just have some white stoneware slip. I'm gonna first, just using the back of a wooden knife tool, and I'm just kind of frosting this on here. And the slip is gonna work into those grooves, and it's gonna soften that clay underneath it just a little bit. And we wanna create a sticky surface. Do the same thing over here. And then I can take this slip and do the same thing here. Now I'm going to go back to my rib, and you can see that this is starting to dry a little bit, and I want to kind of score up that surface. Again, work that slip right in, and it creates an even area. I'll do the same thing here. It's kind of like tiling. I can come in and lay this in. Do the same thing real quick here. And again, the goal is to have this sort of sticky surface that meets each other. And I'm going to put my hand underneath here to support so that when I'm pushing down, I have something behind it. And I'm just kind of wiggling this in and on, and I'm seeing some of that slip ooze out, which is exactly what I want to see. And I know it looks really messy, but that's okay. We're going to clean it up in just a moment. I'm going to do the same thing over here where I'm supporting underneath. I'm going to take my wooden hat mallet here, paddle, and just tap this a little bit. I'm not hitting it real hard, but I'm just tapping this thing on, really getting it to meet the surface below. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take just the back of, I just have a back of a pencil, and I'm taking some of this extra, or not pencil, it's a paintbrush. It's rounded, you could use a dull pencil. And I'm just taking some of that extra slip and I'm compressing it into that little bit of a gap that might be present. And that's compressing that slip in. I'm gonna do the same thing on the inside. And that's just really sealing that thing on. Okay, I'll do the same thing here. Getting rid of a little of my extra slip. Okay. Compressing a little bit of that extra in to that edge. Now I can come back with that dry damp sponge and kind of clean up the extra while still compressing that seam. You guys have any questions? So if you already have a couple of these pulled off of the big mold, I would like you to try and get them to this point for Friday, so that you're either ready to assemble your feet or that you're ready to do the next stage, which is going to be shaving the feet down so that we sit this thing flat. Okay. Once I've cleaned that all up, I'm going to come back and just compress this one more time around the edge. Okay. And then just soften that edge one more time. Okay. Now, because we've just added two pieces together, we want this thing to equalize. So you're never gonna just let this thing dry at this point. We're gonna wrap this up, and then on Friday's class, I will show you how to sureform it down so that it gets to this point and is level. Okay, so for Friday, please have all of your soup bowls washed, sanded, and waxed. I'm gonna do a demo on glazing those, as well as finishing this up, and we'll go from there. Again, and you guys need to do 3 of these. So I would like you to have your mold forms. Everybody have 3 mold forms. You don't have to have them all finished, but have 3 mold forms for Friday's class. Again, it takes 40 minutes on the mold. I have another mold right here. I will dry it out tonight. It should be ready for you guys to use tomorrow morning, but there should be 2 molds, so we'll move us along a little bit quicker. Good? I know we went a little over, so thank you very much. Sean, could you stop that video?